Now, industry leaders across Canada will be monitoring tomorrow's meeting closely. That includes my next guest, who is from the auto industry. David Adams is the president and CEO of Global Automakers of Canada. He joins us from Toronto. David, appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So speaking for the auto industry, what are you hoping comes out of this first meeting with Donald Trump and Mark Carney?
Well, I think from the auto industry's perspective, it would be important for Prime Minister to highlight to President Trump that, if he's not entirely aware at this point, that the tariffs that he's put in place and are still in place on autos are a fundamental violation of the USMCA agreement that he negotiated in his first term. There's a side letter to that agreement that basically stipulates that if the U.S. was ever to put in 232 tariffs on autos again, which is what's been done, that Canada would get 60 days notice, and that there would be certain volumes of both vehicles and parts that would be exempt from any tariff. And that's certainly not what we've experienced to date. So if the president is interested in having further dialogue on what our trading relationship looks like as far as the auto industry is concerned, I think the fundamental message from the Prime Minister would be those tariffs have to come off.
Do you have hope that they will?
It's always a hope. I mean, it's always been our contention, and I think from our side of the border, that the U.S. auto industry actually works much better, functions more efficiently, more cost effectively when the U.S. has both other parties to the agreement involved in the U.S. auto industry, being Canada and Mexico. So I think that's the ongoing message that I think needs to be promulgated with the president, and we'll see where we get to. And I think a lot of the rhetoric that we've heard over the course of the last couple of days is sort of again kind of meant to destabilize Canadians and prepare, I guess, if you will, for the visit of the Prime Minister tomorrow.
We've seen companies like Stellantis shifting some of their production to the U.S. Do you think Trump is entering this meeting, though, with the mindset that his tariff strategy is paying off?
Well, look, I mean, I think he's, I've said this before, I think I understand why the president wants to try and repatriate the automotive industry, but I'm not sure that he entirely appreciates the cost or the consequences of doing so. Repatriating the automotive industry is going to take time. It's not something that's going to happen over months or even a year or more. It's several years and billions of dollars. And the reality is that once you repatriate that industry, all those vehicles that you're going to be producing in the United States are all going to cost more money than they do now. That's the reason why the industry is structured the way that it is at the moment. So if Americans are prepared to pay more money for vehicles to have good production jobs in the U.S., then I guess that's the decision that they're going to make. But the reality is that there's no real upside at the end of the day for trying to repatriate these automotive jobs. And I think from some of my members, we've already seen decisions that have been made because choices have consequences. You choose to tariff, then Canada's chosen to put retaliatory tariffs in place. And some of my member companies have decided that they're not going to be producing vehicles and shipping vehicles in the States to Canada anymore. They'll resource those vehicles from elsewhere in the world. And that sort of fundamentally undermines this idea of building more vehicles in the United States.
Interesting. I was just going to ask you, how is the industry doing right now, given the many weeks that they've faced these tariffs?
Well, and it's been a challenge for sure. And I think the fundamental challenge is just the overall lack of certainty, because nobody knows what the next day is going to bring. The volatility in the president's decisions about tariffs being on again, off again, postponed. If they're postponed, it doesn't necessarily help the issue. It just means that it's kicked it down the road a little bit. But I think fundamentally, and again, I think this would probably be another point that I would hope the Prime Minister would make to the president, is that we can't all continue to operate, United States included, in this environment of constant uncertainty. It doesn't help. I'm not sure the president necessarily cares perhaps about Canada or Mexico, but it doesn't help the U.S. and anybody trying to plan and how to do business and invest in the United States either.
What do you think of the sort of wider context? You made reference to it, but this sort of 51st state rhetoric, which has sort of just come back and is back part of Trump's kind of daily, musings, and how challenging that kind of rhetoric can be when you want to have a normal relationship with your neighbor, a normal trading security relationship with your neighbor.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and I think you use the word relationship, and I think that's one of the things that from what I've seen, the president puts a lot of stake in relationships, and if he has good relationships with people, then other things may evolve from that. But I think being a relationship man, he's got to understand that a fundamental part of relationships is trust. And if you can't trust those that you're entering into a relationship with, then it's really difficult to move forward. And I think the fact that the president has given the prime minister and Canadians generally lots of reasons not to trust him, and that trust has to be rebuilt before we can move further down the road in terms of better determining what our automotive relationship, our trade relationship, our economic relationship is going to be going forward.
What kind of support does the auto industry need from Ottawa right now in this time?
Well, I think fundamentally it's been referenced by both the provincial government in Ontario here and the federal government, the fact that they're trying to assuage the concerns and rightful concerns, I suppose, of folks that are in assembly plants and parts feeder plants and that sort of thing, anybody affiliated with the industry, that we have your back. We have programs in place that will support you no matter sort of what happens on down the road here. I know from my two members, they're committed to continuing to produce vehicles in Canada. They've not laid off folks in Canada for their over the course of their 40-year history here. And the reality is that this is a negotiation, and the next step of which will occur tomorrow. And I think we just need to all take a breath and try and ride this out as best we can. But I think the fact that they've put supports in both federally and provincially should, again, help assuage some of the concerns that anybody really affiliated with the industry has at this moment.
David, thank you. David Adams, President and CEO of the Global Automakers of Canada.